Hello YouTube Pipers, Double O Pipe here, aka Rick. This is the fourth time I've tried to make this video. I don't know. I tried to adjust the volume, but I don't know how to do it. One of the folks that stopped by complained about how soft my videos are. I have no clue how to deal with the audio of the thing. So I tried to turn the volume for my audio up to see if that would do anything. Well, when I did that, it turned this off. Then I came back, turned it on. Dog barked outside. Hunter wanted to go out to see what the dog was. That rarely happens. So I stopped it again, walked him outside. He started to run up to where the dog was. Looked like he was a real dog for a change. And halfway there he skidded to a halt, looked around like something was after him, turned around and came back to the house. We came back in. I started it up again. Dog barked. Hunter wanted to go see. We went out for the second time. Same thing happened. Poor boy wants to play, but he's just scared. It's a cute puppy over there, and he's so much smaller than Hunter. It's surprising that he seems to be afraid to go where he is. But anyway, we came back in, trying again. I lit this the first time, and now it's about half smoked. It's my rat tray, which you should be familiar with by now because I've been smoking that lately. And I had the GLP's Chelsea Morning that I was trying. And I found when I broke that out that the tobacco's different from any of the others. I mean, I'm used to ribbon cut, and this was like sticks. So I had to break the sticks up. It's kind of wet, so I left it out. And I'm not sure that I'm crazy about it, but I've been kind of busy. Excuse me. My beverage is getting cold. I was going to try and tell a story that came to me one time. I wrote it down a while back. Wasn't anything to do with my childhood or a memory of mine. About a little boy who lived 2,000 years ago. In the land of Israel. During the Roman occupation. Well, this little boy was about 10, I guess, and his mother called him over to the house. She was standing at the door. She had a basket in her hand. She said, "You need to take this out to your father. It's his noonday meal. So I've covered it up. Don't do anything to disturb it. Don't drop it when you're going. And carry this bag of water too." It was one of those goat bags with water in it. I don't know what you call them, but he threw it over his shoulder. Took the basket in his hand, said, "All right, Mama, I'll get it there safe and sound, I promise." She said, "Please do, because you know your dad's temper these days. He's just not a happy man." ever since he had to quit fishing on the Galilee and he had to go to scrabbling land, he's just not been happy. Little boy said, "Yeah, I know." And he started walking down the road, the old dirt road that led to Jerusalem. Picking up stones, throwing them, kicking stones as he walked along. Stopped for a minute, put the basket down, put the goat skin on his other arm because it was beginning to weight him down. Picked up the basket and started on again. And a Roman chariot came by and he had to get off the road. And he mumbled under his breath, "Damn Romans," just like his daddy said. He said, "One day we'll be out from under them, damn Romans." And he kept walking along, and all of a sudden he noticed that there were a lot of people on the road walking toward this hill. And he said, "What in the world's going on?" He was talking to himself. Talk to himself a lot, like I do. And he said, "What's going on, I wonder?" And somebody beside him said, "Don't you know?" He said, "No, I don't know what's going on." He said, "The master is giving a talk." And he looked up at this guy and said, "The master? Who's the master?" He said, "Come. He loves children. Come with me, and you can listen." So he said, and the fellow said, "My name is Andrew. What's yours?" And he said, "My name's Jacob." He said, "What you got in your hand?" He said, "I've got my dad's meal." He said, "Well, just hang on to it." He said, "Of course I will. I'm not going to let this go." He said, "Come with me." So that the fellow Andrew put his arm across his shoulder, and they walked on. They walked up to the front of the people. There were thousands gathered around, just sitting around this hillock, and there was a man atop the hillock. And Jacob thought to himself, what's he going to talk about? And so he started talking. And Jacob just sat there. He was kind of mesmerized. He thought about the times he had gone to synagogue. And he was always squirming because he didn't understand what those fellows up front were talking about. It didn't make any sense to him. But this man was talking so that even he could understand. And the longer he sat there, the more his heart felt joyful. And the man stopped and looked around, and he said something to his companions up there. And one of them came over to the fellow who was with him, Andrew, and said, "We need to get food for these people. The master has asked that we get food." And he said, "Well, this boy's got some." And he picked up his basket. The boy grabbed his basket and said, "I can't give that to you. That's my daddy's." He said, "It'll be okay. It'll be okay. You'll see." He said, I can't do it." And they led him over to the man at the top of the hill. The man looked down at him, smiled, and Jacob felt very much at ease when he saw this man looking at him. And the guy said, "What have you got there, Jacob?" He didn't know how he knew his name, but he did. He said, "I got my daddy's midday meal." He said, "Well, let me have a look at it, please." So to him, he just gave it to him. And he picked up the rag that was covering it, took it up to the top of the hill, had his companions gather around him. They all made baskets out of their tunics or whatever they were wearing. And the man held the basket to the sky and blessed it, brought it back down. Andrew held it in his hand, and the man manipulated the food in his hand and dropped bits into each of the 12, or at this point 11, because Andrew was holding the basket, handmade baskets. And they walked around to all the people and gave them as much as they wanted. And Jacob was just staring. He said, how did they get that much food out of my basket? He just couldn't understand it. So when everybody had had their fill, the man who was talking came down to Jacob and said, here's your basket, son. Thank you very much. And Jacob looked in and it was empty. He said, what am I going to do? This was my daddy's lunch. And the man they called the master said, don't worry, I've got a basket here. You can carry it to him. It was a little bigger than the one he had, and it was draped over with a cloth. And Jacob looked under the cloth, and it was fresh baked bread and fish that had the aroma of being freshly cooked, and it was warm. He said, this is more than my dad could eat. And the man looked at him and smiled and said, it's because you had other people's thoughts in your mind and in your heart. And that's something I don't want you to forget. He said, I'll never forget this. And he said, no, I'm talking about in your heart. The feeling you had for others beyond yourself. Don't ever forget that. And he smiled at him. And Jacob looked at him and said, I won't. And smiled back. And the man told him to go take the food to his father. So Jacob walked off, looking back at the man who went back to the top of the hill. And resumed talking to the people, who were all transfixed once again, all full. And Jacob marveled about the fact that he only had 3 loaves and 2 fishes whenever he first went into the crowd. And he's come out with this basket that's just full to the brim, more than his dad could ever eat. And he got to his dad and he started to tell him, and his dad said, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Your mother said you'd be here at noon, and look at the sun. It's far past noon. And Jacob said, well, I had to stop and listen to the man, and he, what man? He said, the man that was giving a speech over there, where all the people are. He said, that raggedy preacher? He said, he didn't look raggedy to me. He said, he's just a bum who's not doing any work, and he's taking people away from their jobs. He said, I had the best job in the world, and I loved it. And I was fishing on the Galilee with Andrew and Peter, and what happens? He comes along, and they just walk off. I couldn't do it on my own, so I had to come and work on the land. I hate working on the land. So you can't tell me that man is any good. He takes people away from what they're supposed to be doing, and he feeds layabouts who do nothing. He said, and I've been working here under this hot sun, just broiling under this sun, and you didn't bring me my food when I needed it. He said, I'll never want to listen to that man. And he yanked the goat skin off of his shoulder and drank down, quenched his thirst, and put it on the ground. And he opened up the basket and he said, where did you get this food? Where, your mother sent this much food? And he said, no, that's what I was trying to tell you, Daddy. The man did this. He said, what are you talking about? And he grabbed a piece of the bread and took a big bite out of it and just looked at it like he was amazed at how wonderful that tasted. And he took a piece of fish in his hand, and he said, "This fish is still warm. How is that possible?" He said, "I tried to tell you, Daddy." And he gobbled that down. He said, "I tried to tell you, that man," he said, "I don't want to hear anymore. And I can't believe your mother gave you this much. It's a waste of food. I can't eat all this." He ate what he wanted. He gave it back to the boy. He said, "Take this back to your mother and tell her to put it up where it should be, not to be sending me this much food." He said, "But Daddy," the man said, "Don't but Daddy me. You do what I tell you. You get on home now. I got to get back to this field and finish it up. I hate this working on the land. I miss fishing on the Galilee." That put a damper on Jacob's feelings. That joy that he had felt in his heart wasn't there anymore. His daddy had stomped that out of his heart. So he was walking back real slow, kind of shuffling his feet, head down. And as he passed the hill, he looked over at the man on the hill, and the man on the hill looked at him, and he smiled, and he touched his heart like this, and nodded to the boy, and the boy just broke out in a big, bright grin, put his hand on his heart, and felt that joy once more. And he walked straighter than he had before he came out, walked straight home to his mother and gave her the basket and tried to tell her all that he had seen. And that was it. That was the end of the story that came to me many years ago. Like I said, it wasn't anything about my childhood or anything. It was just something that came to me, and I kind of liked the story. My tamper from Steve Roberts, he makes these. If you're interested, go to his YouTube posts and put your name down and let him know that you're interested in getting one of these. He does a pretty good job, and it works very well. And I'm proud to have it myself. And somebody asked me where I got it, and I told them I hope they go into Stevie and ask him to make them one. I hope I didn't bore you guys. I used to try to write stories. Several of them came up with not a religious theme, but a story about Jesus out in Roman occupied Israel. And his sacrifice for us. So, that's my story for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I don't know if you did or not. When I wrote it way back when, I liked it. And it stuck with me after I wrote it, along with several others that I wrote. I'll try and remember those if anybody's interested in those. If you like this, let me know, and I'll bring some of the others to the forefront. I hope everybody's doing okay. I hope your day is going well. Temperature here has gone up into the 80s. We're approaching summer, the summers we're normally having. This spring has been wonderful. It's been, usually our springs are like summer, which means they're hot and humid. But this spring has been very, very nice. Cool breezes. Of course, we've gotten a lot of rain, but this week we were supposed to, or this weekend we were supposed to have rain from Wednesday through Sunday, but that hasn't come true. I understand that senior church warden has been having rain, so maybe the rain we were supposed to have decided not to come this far north, but stay down there with them. I think they needed the rain. We don't. So I hope it's done well for them, but I hope it doesn't get to be too much. At any rate, my day has been going okay. I hope you're doing okay. I hope your pipes are smoking well and staying lit. I'm still learning, still trying to figure it out. Funniest thing, this Chelsea morning, when I retrohale it, it burns a little, but also it reminds me of soap. Is that weird? Some of these tobaccos remind y'all of soap, because that's what this kind of reminds me of. You folks take care of yourselves. I'm about ready to hang it up now. I got to put my thumb right there where the red button is so I can look you in the eye and say, God bless you until the next time.